See, what is a static website or static web application? What is the static one?
Sir, it will show only the text and images. We cannot interact with that website. It will be static. No change will be there, and there will be not taken any input from the client.
Okay, I will stop you there, and I will make you understand that the interactive website is not a dynamic website. Interactions can happen in a static website as well. So that is not exactly a static one.
Okay, sir.
You will understand. I'll clarify you. Any other thoughts? What is static website?
So static in the sense it will not change with the time. Like example in the dynamic, we can example for dynamic is advertisement. But in static, we cannot
still
do
you
that.
are comparing that with the dynamic website or dynamic web application. My question is, why that is? What is that static? You still compared it with dynamic and said that whatever is not dynamic, that is static. That is how you presented it.
Static is fixed one. It has fixed contents.
Yes.
It will not change.
Yes, that is the point. You mentioned one word there. That word is much important. What is that? Once again.
Fixed contents pages.
It depends on the content of the website. So if there is a fixed content, that is called static website. Then what is dynamic? It is dynamic content. It is so simple. It is dynamic contents. The content is frequently changing. Say for example, my question is, can you interact with a news website, a news application? Can you interact with the news application?
No.
No,
No,
right?
sir. That is a static.
That is not static. That is not static. That is dynamic. The news are changing. The news are continuously changing. You cannot interact with that.
Yeah.
So that is dynamic content. So that is dynamic web application. So the static one, what technology you will use to build the static website is simple HTML. The no content is going to change. You can just create a simple HTML file, and that can be hosted in any server. Nobody will be able to do anything on top of that content, and the content also not going to change. Right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Now, then, how this or when you will go for a static website, or when you will be going for a dynamic web application? Let's call that as application and website. Okay, web application and website. So that is generally people call it as web application means it's dynamic. Website means it's not dynamic. So when will you go for a static? When will you go for a dynamic one? I think Abhinav is here. Abhinav can explain that better. He have more research on this area. I think so. Abhinav, can you hear me? Hello Abhinav, are you on mute and talking, or are you not hearing me? Oh, Kasif, do you have any idea about when will you go for a static website and when will you go for a dynamic one?
No, actually, I don't have any idea about it.
No idea about it. Okay.
Sir, if we need a much speeder website or speed, because it's static, the page will loads speedily than dynamic, right? So in that case, I think we can go for static websites.
No.
Yeah.
No, that is not correct.
Okay.
So if I'm starting a small shop and I have to give like I wouldn't say as an advertisement, but as an like a static website, in the sense like only the content, what about my shop and all that, and the details and contact and the basic things, that kind of website, is it static?
So basically you want to bring your online presence, that's it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so in simple words, when you want to bring just your brand to online, you can go for a static website. So there is no functionalities, there is no dynamic activities. You maybe even include a simple form to submit some data, but that is also not required. And when you consider a dynamic oneness, you want to change your content frequently. You want to change your content frequently, that too not manually, automatic. Okay, the content change you can do in static websites also. You can go ahead and change your content manually, so that will bring that dynamic feel to your static website as well. But that is not what we are actually meaning here. We are meaning it automatically changes the content time to time, as Priyanka said, the time to time, that is also there. But what time it need to be changed, on what circumstances it need to be changed, that will be decided by the application designers. For example, when you consider something like what we call a news application, the news is going to be frequently updated, right? When you work on a social media, the contents are going to be changed dynamically each time. When you work on something like the what we call some chat applications or chat websites or chat rooms, so that will also be changing the content. And all of us who have selected a project, all the projects are dynamic projects. It requires a dynamic presence. It cannot have a static website. So for example, the on-call doc which the Ruby team is doing, we need to have a dynamic presence. Excuse me, and sorry. We need to have a dynamic presence in terms of displaying the doctors. Also, when you search, that the content is going to change, the content is going to be shown differently. And also the software team is working on something like a dynamic web application, like the content is each time the content data is going to change with the the attendance, non-attendance, they are add new faculty, remove the faculties, or add new students or remove the students. So these are actually dynamic. The same goes with the bus management system or e-commerce. E-commerce is completely dynamic. We should go with the dynamic thing when we consider the e-commerce. So that is where actually you need to have this dynamic web applications. Do you have any doubts on this? When will you go for dynamic, or when will you go for static?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. So see, any dynamic applications which is running on top of a server, that doesn't mean static websites are not running from a server. Static websites also run from a server. I am just presenting my screen. Just presenting my screen here. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, for example, we go to the neonix.com website. So this is our neonix.com website. So is this website is a static one or a dynamic one? How do you feel?
So it's dynamic.
So why did you feel this is a dynamic one?
Sir, I think it's static.
Okay.
So I do think it's the static.
Okay. Why do you think it is static? Why do you think it is dynamic?
Static.
Static.
I think it's static because it's just showing home, about, service, blog, and contact us.
Right.
Pretty much what you told before. There's nothing we are changing in it.
Right.
It's contact details and just showing your online presence over there.
as you mentioned before, it's showing your brand over there in the online.
Yes, that's it. So this is a static website. Okay. So what technology we use to build this is it's WordPress. So when you consider WordPress, is WordPress a dynamic website builder, or what is WordPress? Anybody of you have an idea about what is WordPress?
So WordPress is something that we use to it's something like a software that we use is helping us to make a website, right?
Right.
Drag and drop kind of thing, right, over there for WordPress. If I'm right, I'm not sure. Like I've heard that.
Right. That all these things are there, but still you need to understand what is it. It is much more than that. It is actually called CMS, Content Management System. Okay, WordPress is a content management system, which is a dynamic web application, which is not static web application. But using WordPress, we build a static website. Okay, so you can create pages, you can manage the content, you can even build what we call the dynamic websites like e-commerce and all using WordPress as well. So it's there, the dynamic features also you can bring over there. So we used WordPress because it is easy for us to change this content just using, as you said, the editors. We can just edit the data. We don't need to programmatically go ahead and deploy all these things. So that's why we use WordPress for these kind of simple websites. So similar websites also we will be making. So this is one example. Now I'll give you one small tip here. W3 text. Okay, so this is for you to understand. So this website w3text.com. If you pick up any website, say for example you are taking this neonics.com website and paste it here and just grab the information. Okay, so what it shows you is, it will show you all the details about which technologies used for building this website, what is our rank, and what is our technologies at the server side, what is used in the client side, and what is the web server which we are running, where we are actually hosted, what is the data center name, where we have provided the DNS, where is the email server hosted, and whether we have used any SSL site elements. So almost all the details of a website, if it is a web application, when you build, you will be understanding what technology used for this website. Okay, that's what you get from this. Now, how you can utilize this is when you want to see some e-commerce web applications and you want to use the same kind of applications. You may be searching for the technology. You can easily search for the technology which is used for that application, and that can be utilized for your development purpose as well. Okay, so that is where this technology comes in, and all these technologies are running from a server. Now you just need to understand what a server is. Okay, so now let me just show you some command. So this command I am going to run in ping. So this is a ping command. Some of you might be knowing this. So when you ping neonics.com, so you will see something called an IP address. An IP address 13, 234, 225 and 49. So this IP address is where we are hosted the application. That means in this IP address there is a hardware machine. There is a machine sitting somewhere that is just like our PCs, but it have more configurations, and it is 100 percentage, all the time it is online, and that is mapped with the IP address 13, 234, 225 and 49. So someone who hit this IP address, so if you hit this IP address, what you will get is the same website. So the same website is going to load from this IP address, right? So what we did is we have mapped this neonics.com name in our DNS provider. I have mapped this to this IP address. So whatever this IP address machine is serving you is actually getting to you. So are you able to understand this? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes or no? Okay. So this IP address machine is called server. Okay. So inside this server, I may have a web application server or an application server. What we call it as application server. So if you search in Google like application server, you will be seeing a lot of application server. What is application servers? Let me just application servers list. Okay, so you just search for this, you'll be seeing all these application server list. What is this application server list is? This is nothing but just a software which runs in your actual physical server. Say for example, when you check this W3 Tech in neonics.com, what you have seen is there is a web server, right? This web server we are using Apache. So you saw this web server. So this web server and this IP address server, don't get confused with these two things. These two things are different. This web server Apache is a software which is installed inside this IP address machine. Okay, this IP address machine might be a machine which is running on an Ubuntu or a Red Hat Linux or even in the Windows server or something like a Mac OS. So that is what actually this IP address machine is going to be, where I need to have a server to host any website. So I use Apache server, which is an HTTP server. That means the HTTP server means this HTTP server can respond to HTTP requests. So the HTTP request is nothing but which you call using an HTTP client like a browser or a HTTP client program. You hit the application via HTTP protocols. So that is where this Apache is actually going to return you this respond you with this neonics.com website. So this IP address I have mapped to my DNS with the name. My name address is neonics.com. So I have mapped this neonics.com to this IP address, and from this IP address I am actually using Apache server to serve the application. Are you able to understand? Are you able to visualize how does it happen?
Yeah, yes sir.
Yes, sir.
So anybody getting any minor confusion you guys get, please tell me. Okay, because most of the people doesn't understand what is a server and client. That is where actually their dynamic web application failure starts. They will not understand this. Okay, so now that is what I said. Now I have this IBM WebSphere, I think Wildfly, then Apache Tomcat, Oracle, Glassfish. So these are different servers, and Apache Tomcat is different servers. Okay, so Apache is a application server which is used for serving static websites and PHP Python based applications, whereas Apache Tomcat is a container for Java. So most of the servers, application servers which is listed over here is actually based on Java, or they are actually helping Java applications. Okay, so that means, let me just draw it to you how this happens once again for your understanding. So I'm taking my MS Paint. So for example, this is my hardware machine. This hardware machine actually sits in this 1324 IP address. So this is my IP address here. Okay, so this is a machine which has a Unix operating system, which has a Unix operating system. Okay, so this Unix operating system is there, and what I have installed here is, I have installed something named Apache server. Okay, so this is where I have installed my Apache server, and what happens here is, inside this Apache server I am actually putting my index.html. So you just, I'm not talking about WordPress over here, I'm just saying it's a static index.html which is serving neonix.com. So I just remove the neonix.com serving from here. Okay, now what happens is, this machine sits somewhere in USA. Okay, that machine contains my application, my index.html file, and that is even in Apache server. Now someone who hits this IP address, this index.html will be served. So that is how I get this index.html over here. Okay, now what is a client? A client is a browser. Okay, someone actually maybe okay, so this is our Kasif's machine. So Kasif opened his Google Chrome. So this is his client. He types 13.234.225.49. What happens? This browser, this Google Chrome browser, sent this request to this IP address. So this IP address, Apache server, is listening to a port called 80. The port number is 80. In this port number, this Apache server application is listening. So by default, any application, any IP address you hit, it is going to be listened by the application which is in the port 80. So now the request is listening by this Apache server, and this Apache server sent that response to this particular request to this machine. Okay, now the request goes here. So you need to understand this. This is request, and the request is processed from here, and a response will be served to this Chrome, and the Chrome browser is capable to display an HTML. The index.html response is coming here. This index.html is displaying over here. Now the Kasif doesn't reside into this IP address. Kasif's IP address might be something like 224.44.225 then 9. Okay, so this might be Kasif's IP address, which is hitting from Bangalore. This browser actually sends this request through wire, the network connected. So any machine which is connected to a network that will get an IP address. Even your mobile phones, when you connect to the internet or network, you get an IP address. You can hit that mobile with an IP address. So I think in our last session, I think in Saturday or yesterday, I don't remember, I have mentioned when you are connected to a network, be careful that other people can access to your machine using your IP address. Okay, now this is what happens. Now if Kasif types here, behalf of typing this 13, 234, 225 and 49, what is happening? Say neonics.com is what he has typed. Now what happens is, this neonics.com, this browser will not directly send to here. This browser will be sending it to something called a DNS server. Okay, here DNS will be there. That is domain name server. That is what DNS means. So the DNS registration which we had done, if we had done the DNS registration, say for example, if I am hitting something like where is my coffee.com, let me see where is my coffee.com is existing or not. So you see, where is my coffee.com is available for sale. It went to somewhere called uniregistry.com. It doesn't, it is a parked website. This website, where is my coffee.com, is never mapped to a website or never mapped to a proper IP address. So I type where is my coffee.com. Let me just type it here again. Where is my coffee.co.in.zm. Okay, I just hit this. What happened is this website mapped nowhere and it doesn't have any IP address map. So what happens is, this site can't be reached. That is actually coming, and you will see this message DNS probe finished NX domain. So there you can see it is an DNS error. It is not a DNS error. The DNS was actually trying to figure out where is this website mapped, and there is no IP address mapped to this particular website domain name. So that's what happened when you are not mapping your IP address with a domain name server, and your applications or your websites will not be reachable. Now what happens is, the request comes to the DNS and the DNS checks where is actually this domain is mapped. And now that if the domain is mapped to this IP address, what the DNS will do, the DNS will actually send that request to this IP address. So indirectly DNS actually redirects, or DNS is where actually your domain name is registered and mapped with the IP address. There is some DNS tools available. I am going to show you how you can use DNS tools. Say for example dnschecker.org. You can see the DNS checker is available. It is showing a list of countries, whereas actually the domain name servers are available. So means in these places, all these places, there is a domain name checker connection point or a join point will be there, and that point, from that point is actually in that country that domain is mapped. Now you should be able to understand how these countries are actually blocking some websites. Some countries this website is not allowed. So how they are blocking the applications when you are installing. You may be able to install the application, but you may not be able to use it to the communication with the server, because they are blocking using this domain name server. So each country will have this, not every country, but most of the countries will have. Now this is called a record. As part of domain name management, there is n number of different records like a record, mx record, cname record, text. A lot of different records are there. So a common domain name mapping will happen in an a record. Now if you take neonics.com in the a record, you will be seeing, when you click this, you will be seeing in each country it is mapped to which IP address. So in India it is in Udaipur. So in India, Udaipur, you can see this data is mapped to the exact IP address which we are configured. Now let us check that what is it, where is my coffee, right? Where is my coffee.com. So I check this. Now this says like this, where is my coffee.com is mapped to this IP address. Now if I am changing this to where is my coffee.in.co.zm, now what will happen? It is not going to give you any IP address configuration. This is where actually your DNS check happens. So now when you check the DNS, what happened is your DNS is not mapped. This domain name is not mapped. I don't know whether this domain name is registered by someone. Even if you register the domain name will not be mapped to a server or any server IP address. It is not going to hit the data. You can even host a website from your own local machine if you are 100% time connected to internet and you have a static IP address. You can buy your own server and host it from your own data center. Okay, so that's possible. Any doubts on this? Now the DNS is where actually decides. The DNS checks whether the request need to be mapped to this server or any other server, and it is sending to the server which is mapped and sending the response. So this part, okay, this is our client. This is our server. So client communicating to the server, and internally the server has an application server. That application server serves your data. Okay.
Sir, in DNS server it is storing the domain name as well as the corresponding IP address. Am I right, sir? Then it is comparing with that name to matching IP address. Then it is sending that request to the that server. Am I right, sir?
Right.
Okay. Okay, then.
That is on a broader level. I said that is on a broader level. When you host some applications, that need to be taken care. For our case, we are going to use the IP address directly. So here is the point. What is your machine IP address? It is 127.0.0.1. That is your local IP address. Okay. How you can figure out your IP address? You can just go to your command prompt, type ipconfig. So you see some IP addresses, right? So this 127.0.0.1 will not be showing. This default gateway is my modem IP address, and this is subnet mask, and then this IPv4 address is which.
So your screen is not shared.
Sorry, I forgot. Sorry, I'm sharing it. So I typed this ipconfig. Okay. When you type this ipconfig, you will see something called IPv4 address. So this IPv4 address is nothing but my IP address of this machine. It may change. It will not be always 7, because this common IP address is this one. That is my modem IP address. This one is my machine's IP address, because I am connected to this same network and Archa is connected to the same network, and both of us have a different IP address, and n number of mobiles are connected to this network. Everyone will get different IP address. Okay, so you can either use this IPv4 IP address to hit my machine, or something like if you get it is called localhost. The localhost can be replaced with 127.0.0.1. Got it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So so this is what we are going to start.
Hello.
Yes, Abhinav.
Hello, sir. Sir, actually, that the error which is that the site cannot be reached. That error also comes when a famous organization announces their results online. Like if CBSE announces its results online, then also we will get the same error, like the site cannot be reached, and after a few hours
Yeah.
that the site is reachable.
Yeah,
So
that
why is it so, sir?
yeah, it can be. I cannot tell that on a single or simple word. That is, this is why the error happens. It can be with multiple reasons. One is the site might be switching. Say for example, now I want to switch from that IP address which I shown to a new server which I want to migrate. That time what happens is the IP address DNS reflection. So why I showed you that DNS checker, this DNS checker is, if I add a DNS value in my domain name and then check for it, it might not be reflecting in all the countries. It might be reflecting in some places. That means it takes around 6 hours of time to reflect in all the countries. That is what the timeline it was earlier. Now I don't know whether it is reduced or not, because the DNS thing is not something which is immediately changing. Okay, so now the company which you mentioned, that company want to switch their front facing server to some new IP address. That switching time, it can throw this error. It can happen this error. That is one way. Second is, your server, that IP address mentioned server is down, then also this IP address will not be reachable, right? That time also you will get this error. Now the IP address is reachable and then the page say for example your application is not there, then it is going to be throwing an error like this. So there is multiple possibilities of for this same thing to happen, but every time the response level, you can even check with the response level, something like, I forgot that there is something like multi-level IP ping command is there. When you hit something like ping google.com, it is actually hitting from one server to I think it is trace command. I forgot that. I don't use this for years. Now the trace command, when you use, you will be understanding from which server to which server this requests are transferring. Say maybe there is server 1, that is their cluster server, the what we call as the front facing server, and from that server they have some hundreds of servers mapped as additional nodes. That node, I mean NODE, node. Okay, the nodes will be responding. Sometimes the one node is out, they will be mapping it into another node. That is for their load balancing and all. They will be mapping in different ways. So different companies have different strategies. They will be loading it in many different ways. Okay, so n number of reasons may be there. We cannot simply say what is the exact reason. Okay, so you got some idea, right? There may be reason 1, reason 2 or reason 3.
Okay, sir.
Different reasons. So we had the same issue, something like a one of our website which is hosted in one of our clients' web application was hosted by some other company. We took it over, and after that what happened is the application was not showing. Say something like the application was hosted, the domain mapping, DNS, everything was perfect, but when it reaches to the server, the application simply responds that the page cannot be displayed. So we never understood what is the problem. It was the problem with the database. There it was actually, suppose it was hosted in a WordPress website. The WordPress runs on top of that database. Now the database server is down. So where the database server call actually happens from the application. Immediately the database server call happened, the database server failed. So the application thrown a failure, then the response went as a app page cannot be displayed. That is what happens. So you are going to see all these things now in a couple of moments. Not all these things, but how our pages will not be displaying in our dynamic applications is what we are going to see. Okay. Abhinav, you are clear, right?
Yes, sir. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
So now, how we are going to create a dynamic web applications? I have just trialed some of some simple codes over here. I'm not going to show that. If my code is not working, I will take something from that. Okay, that's it. So simple. So to create a dynamic web application, you also need to have a Apache Tomcat if you are simply going with the Servlet JSP approach. So if you are coming to Spring Boot of this high-end technologies like Spring Boot, you don't need to have this Tomcat separately because it has an embedded Tomcat. Okay. Now where you can download the Tomcat, you can go to just click on Tomcat download. So okay. So this tomcat.apache.org, you will be seeing this. I went to this 7 server 7, so that is not the one. You can go up to, say, I frequently use this 9 because this 10 is still in alpha version. So I go to this 9, and what I download is I download the zip file. Okay. There is an installer you will be getting, but I don't recommend an installer file for Apache to be used in your machine. So it is always preferred to have this zip file, and I downloaded the zip file, and where I downloaded and then I go to, I have separate folders for development. Where is my desktop? Go to my development. So you can see here I have my Apache Tomcat server over here. Okay. So once you download it, if your if your Java home, everything is set up, is proper, then you can go to this bin directory. In this Tomcat, you can go to this bin directory. If you are using a Windows application, you can double click on the startup.bat, which is going to host or launch your Tomcat server. Let me just start this, and it is going to start something like this. I got some errors, doesn't matter. Okay, now you can see this Tomcat server has been started in 3129 milliseconds. Okay. Now what I will do, you go to localhost 8080. Okay. So see, don't worry about this. What you are seeing is something which is our product. You don't need to mind about that, because I have created my root application to change with that. Okay, now let me just replace all these things, and I'm going to create a new text document. What it would be, index.html. So always your index, if you have an index file in an application, I missed the dot, index.html. So when you have the index, what will happen, your server is going to respond with you with that application. Sorry, this is an offline application, so even the application is not there, it is going to load. Just give me a second. Let me just clear the data. Clear storage, clear site data. Okay, now nothing is displaying, right? Because it has actually removed all the data which I have saved for offline application development. Okay, so now this index.html doesn't have any content, so I need to add some content. So let me just type something called hello world. Okay, now what is going to happen, if I reload, this hello world is getting served. Now what happened here is, I have started my Apache Tomcat server in my local, and in my when you when you download and serve it, it is going to show you an Apache Tomcat home page. That is a server configurations home page. You will not get this kind of a thing, because as I have removed my application and I have replaced the root application with some other application, is what it happened like this. So what happens here is, by default Apache Tomcat serve from web apps folder. From the web apps folder, if you are only hitting directly to the Apache server, it is going to return you the root application. Otherwise, you have to hit the exact applications. Say for example, localhost 8080/docs, it is going to display the docs application. So now you are seeing the docs application. Okay. Now if you rename the docs application, or let me just copy the entire docs application, Control C to this root application. Let it finish. Okay. Now the root application is going to serve you with the docs application. Okay. Now if you search for example, I think my spelling got corrupted. Oh, it's examples. Okay. Now you see, what you see is 404 example. 404 means it's a not found error. So if you hit examples, it is going to display. So the 404 is not found, and you can see the servlet examples here. If you want to see the hello world servlet and you want to have the source code, you can get the source code from here. It will be showing you. You will be easily understanding. After my tutorials, you will after this training class, you will be understanding. In fact, this training session is going to take a while. Okay, so that is the examples for servlets. Now if you want to have the Jsp examples, you can go to this Jsp examples and you will get the source code. You can try this out. Then your WebSocket examples, Echo examples. So and there is a chat example is also given there. It doesn't matter. You don't need to learn all these things. So with Apache Tomcat itself, they are providing almost all the examples. Now you understood from where it served. If the application server is launched or hosted, then your applications are served from the folder called web apps, and the bin folder is where you have the application startup and shutdown. So, and if you do this Control C, this application will be shutting down. Now you reload the application, what will happen? The application is not going to give you any response, because the page cannot be displayed or the site cannot be reached. So this is what actually happens. The application is not reachable because the application is not present. Now let us try to access the applications in different ways. I'm again starting with the startup.bat. Am I going too much faster? Anybody is unable to understand? Anybody is unable to follow me? This is my usual speed. Is anybody remaining there in the call? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I thought you all, so we just started with the Tomcat, everyone left. That is what I thought. No response. Okay. The speed is okay, right? Or do you want to increase the speed?
No, sir, it's okay.
Decrease? Reduce the speed?
This feels fine.
Oh, this feels
Yeah, it's good.
Oh, so nice of you about Guru. Thank you. Okay. So now let's see. Now let's see what are all the other ways this Tomcat server can be accessed. Okay. So now we served with localhost, right? Let us type 127.0.0.1 and port number 8080. The same, right? 127.8080 it is hitting. Now let me just open my command prompt and get my IP address by typing ipconfig I don't remember the IP address. So this is my IP address 192.168.1.7. Okay, I hit this without port number. What happens is something which is served from 80. I didn't get anything. So 8080. Oh, okay, it went to HTTPS. I don't want the HTTPS to hit. Okay. Now what happened is 192.168.1.7, that is my IPv4 address is also serving the same application. Any doubts? Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Archer, we are in same network, right?
Yes.
Can you just try this hitting this URL? I posted this in the development group in Slack, and I'm stopping my sharing. You can just showing them the share from your side. Let me just see whether it is accepting or not. Sometimes it might not allow her to present because we both are in the same network. In our intranet, this IP address may be allowing her to get this website loaded from her machine. Sometimes it won't allow because if I have blocked my ports, then she might not be able to hit this. Okay, can you try that, Arsha, and if it works, please share your screen.
Yeah.
It's better you share your screen and then open the browser, because maybe people might not understand if you've done that already.
They are able to see.
Yes, we are seeing your screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, just clicking that will work, no?
Yeah.
So you see, Archa is sitting somewhere else. As my machine is now serving as a server, and if we map this into some domain name, which our public server, if it is something like our public IP address is used here, then you might be able to hit. Now you understood the concept of server and client. Now Arch's browser behaves as a client, and my machine behaves as a server to the the whole environment server. Means the physical server is my machine, and inside that the Tomcat is working as a server application. Do you get an idea?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay, any concerns, any questions, any clarifications, do that now, otherwise you will be struggling to develop applications. Archie, you can stop presenting. No, there is a stop presenting button. Yeah, please. Okay, so that's it. Now I don't want to run this outside my Eclipse. I want to run this server in my application in my Eclipse. I'm not sharing, right? So seeing my screens?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the Archer might not be able to access my machine's application using this 127.0.0.1 because 127.0.0.1 replaces her local host. It is her own machine. Okay. Now this both works here with my machine because I am running the application server from my local. So the local host equal to 127.0.0.1. Okay. Okay, now let's try to create an application and start running this. I stopped my server. How we create a dynamic application is you can create file new, go to dynamic web app project, for easiness, you can go to this other, and then inside this you can search for this dynamic web app project, or you can open the folder web. Inside that you will be seeing the dynamic web project. You take this, let's take a hello world project. Okay, rather than going with the hello world project, we can create something like what will we create? Please suggest me a name to create a project. No one suggests a project name.
Myself. Yeah.
Coding challenge.
Coding challenge.
Okay, coding challenge. Okay, so coding challenge is a dynamic website, and you need to choose a runtime. It can be none as well. You can run it on the runtime time. So how you create the runtime is new runtime. You click on this new runtime. In the runtime, you go to the Apache. Inside Apache, you choose the Apache Tomcat, and next, then you need to browse your directory of where your Apache is extracted. Your Apache Tomcat is extracted. I have already mapped all these things, so I don't need to do that explicitly. So I have done this. You can either choose this 3.1 or 4. I am going with the default one. Sometimes it is going to give me a some crappy results, or sometimes it is not going to work. I need to work on the settings as well. It's not difficult, but you need to understand the things, then only you will be able to make it, because the problem comes like till Java 1.8 and 1.9 it was following some patterns from the Sun Microsystems itself. Now after Oracle took up this, they are releasing this JDK 1.14, that is JDK 14 and all, which has some some libraries missing, some libraries available, some patterns got changed. There are many things, okay, and you will be seeing somewhere, you will be seeing something like web.xml is required for running an application. So sometimes the web.xml was for earlier versions. I think it is in up to 2.5 versions of web application development. You need dynamic web applications, you need to have this web.xml. Nowadays we don't need the web.xml. Okay, now I click on next. No other things you need to work on. You can just click on next, and you get the source folder. This is nothing but your application source files. That is your Java source files need to be there. That is where the src folder comes in, and when you compile your output folder, that is your bytecodes, will be moved into the build classes. And the context root path is coding challenge, that is our application context path will be coding challenge. So we will be accessing localhost 8080 / coding challenge. And the content directory, content is nothing but your applications, what we call the JSP files or HTML files or the response files or something like CSS and all, you will be creating into this content directory. And this generate web.xml deployment descriptor, that is not required in nowadays. I am not choosing that. Earlier every configuration was going through this web.xml. Just finish this. What will happen? The coding challenge dynamic application got created, and let me see what it is going to serve. It is going to serve with run as, for me it is other, and run on server. Okay. Oh, there is a dynamic hello world residing here. Removes. Okay. I'm just adding only the coding challenge and just finish it. Okay. Now what happens is the server will be running starting from my Eclipse, and it will be creating a stub server. Because I will tell you what is that server. Stub server means, if you go to this browse deployment location, you are seeing something called it is inside this my workspace. There is a metadata plugins. Inside that they create something called temp0 and WTP web apps. That is where actually the application is resided. Even even I have mapped my actual Tomcat server from this place, it is actually creating a stub folder, and that stub folder is where my applications are running. So I'm just closing this. You don't need to worry too much about all these things. Now the coding challenge started, the coding challenge application started. What happens is HTTP status 404, that is the coding challenge doesn't serve any applications or any files. So let's build something which has a HTML. So this coding challenge, I'm creating a new HTML file. So inside this, as I said earlier, any application which want to serve, when you hit the application name alone, you want to serve something, then that file need to be an index. If that index file is not there, the application will not run. The application will run, but the application will not run as you expected. It may be running, you need to call that file explicitly. I'll show you how that works. Open with HTML editor. I'm just going to add hello coding challenge is fine, right? Coding challenge. Okay. Now you refresh this. What you are going to see is coding challenge. Now if you hit this with index.html, that also serves the same. That means by default this index.html is serving. I am renaming this file with hello.html. Okay. Now this index.html I am removing. You see again 404 error. You need to explicitly call this hello.html. Then only this is going to work. Understand? Hello? Understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now let's come to what is servlet. So behalf of understanding the servlet, let's directly go ahead and create a servlet and then see. In between that, I would prefer to change my properties. So this is 14.01, which is actually editing. I just want to see the execution environment. I just want to change this to 1.8, which is fair one, and just finish. And so now my execution environment will be residing in 1.8. Even 1.9 will also be work comfortably. It will not have any troubles. Okay. Now I'm closing this. Prefer to go with the browser. So let's close these guys. And localhost hello.html is not there because I have only index.html now. I renamed it. So now the coding challenge came there. Okay. Let me just create a package. Right click new. com.neonix dot coding dot challenge. Okay. I'm just finishing this, and now I'm going to create a new servlet. Okay, so when you create a servlet, why we are creating a servlet is to respond to our client request. We get some client requests. So once we receive the client request, we want to process something and give some dynamic response to that clients. That is where actually the servlet comes into picture. Now I'm going to give that as a challenge intro servlet. I choose this as challenge intro servlet. Clicking on next. It says this is the name and the URL mapping is challenge intro. That means the request mapping on behalf of giving something like, sorry, this is the website, right? Behalf of something like index.html. So what we will give is, we will give challenge intro. Okay, I'm clicking on next. So these are actually available methods which I can overwrite from an HTTP servlet. We are not creating an HTTP servlet, we are creating a servlet which is extending or override it from HTTP servlet. So we just need to have a do post and a do get. That is a I need to teach you that get and post method. I will give you an idea about what is get and post, because without that you cannot proceed. Okay, so the get, post, put, delete options, the head, all these things are different things. So let's go with the do get and do post. Just finish. So you see the web servlet, this is called an annotation, and annotation is something like @ you will write whatever that is called an annotation. So now you annotate at web servlet challenge intro. That means you got a URL path called challenge intro. Okay, now you save this and let us hit coding challenge / challenge intro. It gives a 404 error. So why this 404 error comes here is because we don't explicitly write the what we call is that writing to that server is, writing to the response is not properly happening over here. So whatever we hit directly through a URL is coming to a GET request. So the requests are in two types. Majorly, most of the time people will be using in two types, get and post. Get method, anybody over here know get method and post method?
No, sir.
Like post method is used to send the data to the server, and get is to retrieve the data from the server.
Okay, I wanted to hear that answer. Okay, and I wanted to say that psycho game saying, oh, that is wrong, bro, that is not correct. What happened is everybody have this assumption that get means something we want to get from server and post means something we want to post to the server. Okay, it is not like that. So these are some two types. Yes, please.
Sir, post is we are sending our data to server. That is a secure way. But when we are using that get,
hello.
We go to the browser bar. It is not giving the security. So most probably we are using that.
Okay, Asima, congratulations, you are right. Okay, so what happens is it is not for security. The post way is also, it is not secure. You can track it. If a developer is there, you can easily right click and inspect element and you can see. But get is straight away. You are passing everything through URL. Say your parameters, you want to send some data. Everything is through URL. Abhinav, are you understanding?
Yes.
Yeah. So everything you send through URL, that is a get operation. A post operation is you don't send anything through the URL, but as part of request body. It is something different. Okay, so you will understand that in a few minutes is what I believe. If I don't get tired, you will be understanding that. Okay, so now let us this servlet, when we hit this URL, what we call, let me just close this unnecessary things. Where is that? It's closed, right? Okay, and hide this. This one is Tomcat. I don't need this. Okay, so now this challenge intro is my request URL. That request URL is going to hit directly to the do get if it is not a post operation. Okay, now this place is what our response have to happen. So how we are going to get a response writer? We need to get a response writer from the response object. Okay, which is called print writer. Print writer out. So that is an output. We'll be getting that from response dot get writer. Okay. Now that is done. Now let me just comment this thing. I don't need this. Now this out dot print ln. I'm just going to print something like this, h1. What is the trouble here is you have to write all the HTML code to your the string appender. Using the string appender you need to write this, otherwise this will not work, because the styling and all those things you need to give this using the string appender when you use servlets. That's the actual trouble you are going to get. Okay, now let us try hitting this challenge intro again. I think I didn't deploy this, right? I just need to clean the module work directory so that it is going to console is going to start again. Okay. Now you can see the coding challenge is printed in h1. Okay, so the h1 I have given this. Now let me just put multiple times this. So you either have to wait for this auto deployment to happen. So sometimes the auto deployment will happen, and yeah, now this coding challenge auto deployment is completed. I get the message. Now you can see 4 times it is responded. So this is something with the print writer you can respond to your requests, and as it is a Java code, you can say for example you want to print something like the time also. Okay, new date. Sorry. So I need to bring this new date. Okay, so you will see that with the seconds as well, it will be giving when this response is actually writing. We will be understanding. Okay, so save this, wait for the auto deployment to happen. Yeah, the auto deployment is completed. If auto deployment is not completed, you have to stop the server and restart it again. So now you can see after this first coding challenge, this time got printed, and this again this time got printed, and this time got printed. All these are same because it didn't take much difference in the time, so it took something like a faster implementation. Okay. So any doubts on this creation of servlet? So the next thing, immediately I am moving to something called JSP and okay. So this you understood, right? So this is something like the dynamic data. Now you can see the timing is changing, and it's a dynamic data. So that's why it is dynamic. So anytime you refresh, the data is dynamic. So now you can bring something from the MySQL database and show that is also possible. Okay. Okay. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yes. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'm happy with that. Okay.
Yes,
fine.
sir.
Now let me just. Okay. So the difficult thing is here. Say if we have a our styling kind of thing, like our templates, how much data we have to handle in that style, it is a difficult thing to handle from the servlet, right? So to handle that, what we have brought is JSP. Okay, so what JSP goes, where JSP actually goes is, that is like HTML. Anybody who have worked with Python or PHP or in Perl, you might be understanding that how that that in between HTML code you can type the PHP code and you can print the dynamic data. So the same way JSP is capable to do that. So you go here, new JSP file. Okay, I'm just going to create something called ccj.jsp. okay, just take to next and then finish. So I get this kind of a file. This file is actually the doc type HTML. This is an HTML5 file, and inside this I'm just going to type something called welcome to code challenge. Okay, now the code challenge is ccj.jsp. So what I'm going to do here with the browser is, after the coding challenge you need to call ccj.jsp and run it. You get that message, welcome to code challenge. That means this is a HTML, simple HTML. There is nothing much changes we had done over here. What we are going to have here is, say for example we want to print 1 to 10. So what would be our ideal way to print 1 to 10 is, you can type 1 to 10 and then print it. But here, as we are using JSP and we can use Java code in JSP, I prefer to write with the Java code. For that we will use scriptlets called, there are different scriptlets to include a page to represent a data and also execute a block of Java code. So this scriptlet, this scriptlet symbols, in between these symbols you can write a Java code which will run at the server side. So the JSP actually, I think that is not the time, this is not the time to teach you, but just keep it in mind, the JSPs are not actually JSPs, it doesn't run as JSPs, it actually converts into servlet, and that servlet is actually responding to your requests. Okay, so that thing Java will take care of that, you don't need to take care of that conversion part, it automatically works like that. Okay, now I am going to run something like, say for example int I equal to 0, and I am going to run a simple for loop for semicolon I less than 10 and I plus plus, and then I am going to print it to out. This is how you need to do, out dot print I. Okay, and so this out dot print dot I, what it will do, it will print the data to the UI. So when you reload it, this you can see 0 to 9, it is printing, and this is dynamically printed, or from 0 to 10 0 to 9 it has printed for us. Now this out.print is still again a Java code, we don't want to use that. Then what we will do is, so let me just close this scriptlet here and open the scriptlet of that closing brace over here. In between this, I just want to do this equal to I. Okay, now this also will do the same thing, like the I will be printing to the screen. But you can see, you can clearly see in the previous one there was no space, here there is a space. That means I have added this space over here, that space is reflecting. That means there is one single space with an HTML is resulting here. Now suppose if I am giving something called strong, and why we need to use strong? It will make our code, our letters bolder. Okay, so I am just zooming it for you guys. It is a little lower one. It's actually a bold one. Suppose we want to give that in H1, you can give this. So this is just a representation of data. The data will easily get merged with or appended to wherever we want to show. That will be coming as part of the response. Now you can see this, when we give H1, this came into 1, 2, 3 like in the next lines, because H1 works like that. Okay. Now if you want to include some styles, how you can do that? It would be definitely a difficult task to do in the string formatter in this servlet. So here we can do something like, say, the style in between the style tag. Is this not we are doing the CSS styling? I forgot. Did I miss something? Just give me a second. I just want to fetch the code back. Big. Oh, this style is coming here. I just want to do that with the CSS. So, but this doesn't come with CSS. Does anybody remember where you need to do that style? Oh, this style is correct, no? Then what does it show? An error. I did with the end tag, still it is asking an end tag. What? Okay, fine. Sometimes this JSP's compilation might throw an error like this, and you don't need to bother about that. Okay, that is not everyone. So you can even switch off the compilation of JSPs and all that will also work. Now here I am going to give a style for the H1. Say I am going to give that color equal to red and semicolon. So now if I do the refresh, so this entire color got into a red color, right? So now what happened if I okay, this doesn't need anymore. Okay, so I gave this into this color and it is coming in red color. So it would have been a difficult task if we add the same thing in this coding challenge. So you need to go here in the document section and you need to add the CSS colors and all. It would be very difficult. So what we prefer to use is anything like in the representation. Now, like you want to show something in the UI, we prefer you choose to do that with JSP. And any functionalities, any business logic you want to execute, we choose Servlet. And we can communicate between JSPs and Servlets. So you run a Servlet and respond it back to a JSP. Say for example, in this case, I call this a coding challenge servlet, right? This servlet name is called challenge intro. When I call this challenge intro, I want to respond this with this page is what I want. I just going to remove all these things. Okay, the style also I am removing. Okay, so we can forward a request, and we can do that. So how we forward the request and how we are going to respond with the data. Okay, so let us comment all these print outs from here. So if I call this what we call if I call this method challenge intro, it is no more going to give us a response. Oh, sorry, I clicked it multiple times. It's no more going to give us a response. We need to give our destination as our JSP page, and we need to use something called a request dispatcher to forward the request. So let's try to create a request dispatcher. Okay, request dispatcher. Let me just give it as serve. We need to get the request dispatcher from the parameter. We have an argument request, HTTP servlet request argument here, right? So we can just request dot maybe I think it is get request dispatcher is where we are going to get the request. So what this request dot get dispatcher will do, it is going to give us a does someone join, or what happened? Oh, Mohammed Shazin. Okay, so the request dispatcher is joining. Sorry, Mohammed Shazin, I am sorry, you disturbed me. Okay. So in this request dispatcher, it is actually dispatching which servlet or JSP you want to serve. Now here we have the ccj.jsp. I'm just going like ccj.jsp, and this dispatcher is associated with a variable called serve, and that serve dot, if I call, okay, that auto deployment happens, serve dot forward. So what you need to do is you need to forward the request. Okay, now if you serve dot forward the request, what it is going to happen when you call this challenge intro servlet, it is going to respond with the JSP. Okay, let's confirm it. I am from JSP. Okay, I am from JSP. So let's see whether this guy is going to the JSP or not. Oh, okay, I am actually calling it directly to the JSP. I need to check it with the other URL called, where is my URL? Pick the URL challenge intro. Enter. What happened? It came to the I'm from JSP. For your clearance, for your clear understanding, I'm opening it in a new tab. Okay, now you see this came into I am from JSP. Now think about this. If you want to include your styles in a JSP file like this, it would be much easier than adding it in the servlet. Now let me just have a form over here, and I will post some data to the server, and we'll see how I can receive that data back and show it. Okay, so I'm just going to have a simple form method equal to, so here is what actually the method here submitting. So method equal to post. Oh, first let us try with the get. Okay, so the get and the action is going to be, so there's an action, so you need to have an action in the form. The action is going to be my challenge intro part. So the challenge intro servlet. So I'm going to give the challenge intro servlet. So if I submit this form, what will happen? The form will be hitting to the do get method. Okay, I'll give you the idea of that, how it is going to happen. So you need to give something like input type equal to text and the name field. The name field you need to remember, because this is what the attribute which you are going to give at the backend. Okay, so this is where you're entering your name, and after this I prefer you give a submit button. You give input type equal to submit and value equal to submit my name. Okay, so this is what I'm getting now. Let's first see whether I got the form. Okay, I got the form and I'm submitting my name. It is again coming back to this page because I know there is nothing in if I call this challenge intro, what will happen? The challenge intro will be coming over here and it will be again returning back. But what you have seen here is in the get method, when I used, the URL actually came with a question mark and name equal to. So this is what actually came into the when I submitted this. Now let me just type my name Arun and submit my name. What happens is the parameter is passing here through the URL. Now I just want to print that parameter or the argument or the value of name which I have passed over here in the get method. So let me just give request dot get attribute and the string name. What is the parameter name which I have given is name, right? Sorry, name, and I put the semicolon and string my name. Okay, so I need to cast it to the string because it is actually going to return you an object. Now let me just put as sysout my name, sorry, my name plus my name. So what happens is this is my server console. In my server application has this console. So whatever I give with the system.out.println, and it is going to print in the server. It is not going to come to the UI. Okay. Now what I am going to verify here is once my request comes here, whether the request is coming with my name or not. So I just reload this. You can see my name is printed as null because the request.get attribute name didn't give me a response. The name is not there. Let me just use something called parameter. Okay, request.parameter. Clear this console. Still it didn't work. Oh, I think just now it is finished with the response. Okay, so the get parameter is what when I need to get it from the request as a request parameter, you need to use get parameter, not get attribute. So get attribute, I will show you when to use get attribute. In later we will be using the get attribute. So now the get parameter, as we are passing the parameter as part of the request parameter. This is called request parameter. Some people call it as query parameter when you pass it on the excuse me, when you pass it on the URL. Okay, so there is this one is called path parameter, the slash one is called path parameter. After the question mark, whatever comes as it is called as query parameter or request parameter. Okay, and now I am changing this to Archa and just submit my name. Let's see, this comes with Archa, and I don't need to submit each time. I can even refresh this page, or I can copy paste this and enter. So this still work with this. You don't need to you don't even need to fill the form actually. So that is where actually the get method works. So whatever the parameters you want to pass through a URL, you can use a get method. And now let's change it into the post, and let's see what it is going to happen. So the post servlet, let us wait for this to finish. It's better to clean. Okay, so now my server is updated, so the cleaning is completed and my servlet engine is updated. Okay, now let's go back. Okay, I'm just going to the challenge intro. Now this is a post method. I'm going to type the name Guru and just click on submit. You didn't see anything over here, right? In the URL I submitted, this disappeared, but nothing came in the URL. Let's see whether it has come here. Yes, this Guru has come here. What happened is this first came to this place called this post, and from the post it is actually transferred to the do get, because you can see inside the do post method we are calling this to the do get method, because directly we are passing it to the do get method. Now let me just try this over here, and what I'm going to do is my name post, and here I will change is my name get. Okay, so what actually you need to get a render or get a response to your browser, you need to have this do get, not only the do post. So whenever you finish up with your do post, you are actually passing to the do get to respond with the data. So that is what happening. Now let me just type Guru again and submit this. What happens is, you can see first it came to post, then it is moving to the get. It is not actually directly moving to the get. So first it comes to the post and then it is moving to the get. Now what happened when I posted this? You need to use inspect element, go to your network, and then you have to type again, say Amin, and then submit. You can see there is a post method which is getting called, and it has a 200, and now it has responded with the status 200. And you can, if anybody is unable to see, please let me know. You can see this many parameters and this many data is actually passing through this. You will see somewhere the post parameter. Yeah, here is the post. If you expand this, you can see the post scheme. This is file name, and it should have the request headers. I don't even see the name. Anybody of you can see the request? Oh, okay, here is the request tab. Okay. Oh, in Google Chrome, if you check in Google Chrome, it will be available here. But if it is in the Firefox Developer Edition, you will be seeing here. So the name, the form data, which is actually hidden, it is not passing through the URL. It is not hidden, but it is hidden via this form data in the request object. So the request object is where it actually sending to the server side, and once it came here, it is actually sending back to the get. Okay. Now, if you want to send this name to this JSP, what you will do is you need to do something called response. Let me just add it here. Response dot. I think it is set. Is it not set attribute? So I need to look into the code which I have done earlier. Forgot. It is request dot set attribute. Okay, fine. Okay, so you're not sending it into the response. You're setting it into the request dot set attribute, and you're going to give as user name. Okay, and this username I'm going to pass this as my name. So now this my name will be passed back to, not back, it is passed to this ccj.jsp, because we are forwarding the request to this ccjsp. Now let us check. After this we are giving something like h1 hello. Inside this you need to do a dollar, and inside the brace you need to give that key. So this key and this value, you need to give this key here and close the h1. Okay. Now if the username is available, the username is going to print here. I'm just giving the challenge here. So now that it just came with the hello, it didn't have any name. I just submit this guru. What happened is, when it came with the response, that hello guru came. So I'm giving that as Amin, it changed to Amin. Now you understood from the UI, when you posted the data, when you have a form, you have a form data. When you have the form data, when you submit it, it is actually coming to the do post. You can collect the data, all the data you can collect over here, and you can do whatever the operations you want. Once you have done that operations, you can set it you can send it to a response JSP, where whatever the data you want to represent, you can send that data, and that data will be shown over the application to the JSP. So I think it's been some 2 hours now. I feel like I'm not sure whether I'm able to upload this directly into the YouTube today night, but I will try to share the video in where? In a Google Drive, and give you all access. You can download it and watch it and start practicing it. If you guys do that tomorrow morning or tonight itself, I am happy. So you finish it by tomorrow, and I think you're okay with winding up the session now, right? Because I'll give you the time for asking questions. I'm just asking, do you want to continue the session now, or do you want to stop or take a break, and tomorrow we will work on something like a beautification of the JSPs and the form submission and communication with the database. Shall we do that tomorrow?
Yes, sir.
Or do you want to do it now? I'm okay with that.
We'll do it so tomorrow, sir.
Yeah, because
we can do it tomorrow.
Yeah, because it's too much of data, right? So
I see.
yeah,
Too much thing to process.
Correct.
Same here.
Okay, so see, too much thing to process that I understood. Do you guys feel comfortable with JSP and Servlet? Do you understand this? Do you understand the concept of server, client? Where JSP is processing, JSP is also processing at the server. Servlet is also processing at the server. You get only the static HTML response to the client side.